In this Mastering Warhammer 40K series today, we're going to be talking about how this one stratagem changes everything. And that, of course, is Rapid Ingress. All right. So I probably played over 200 plus games of 10th edition. And at this point, I can't tell you how many games this single stratagem has come in just so clutch to win me games. So if you have a tourney coming up, or you're just wanting to use this strat more effectively, let's just deep dive into the things that make this strat so freaking good. All right. So I'm going to be highlighting specifically Necron units today. But with that said, I think the methodologies and tactics I'm going to be talking about literally can be applied to every army. So even if you don't play Necrons, I think you are still going to get a lot of value out of this video today. And let's go ahead and get into it. So I have a diagram up here of just layout 6, GW. We have a Crucible Battle deployment, so diagonal. I have my units here off to the right-hand side that I'm running currently in my Star Shatter list. And I'm just going to start at the top of the first biggest thing with Rapid Ingress and what makes it so good, and that is primary denial, okay? Now, this is one of the biggest things that Star Shatter really struggles with because of the fact, and the reason why I wanted to bring up this deployment is because you have these walls here, obviously, that your opponent can very nicely stage behind, right? So let's just take a very basic example, okay? So we're going to say we're playing against Guard. They have 10 Catachan jungle fighters that are like, I don't even know, what are they, like 70 points, 80 points for like 20 OC. And they are simply just going to be parking them right behind this objective, okay? Probably something you guys have run into before. It could be Tyranids. It could be, you know, any army is going to park something behind here. And it presents the issue of how are you going to dig them out, right? Now, the first turn, it's usually somewhat easy, okay? You know, if we're talking Necrons, for example, or maybe another army, you usually have something that's on the weak side of the board here that can scout up or move and interact with that unit on the first turn and potentially get it off the board, right? Or it's a minimum amount of OC. Maybe they have 2 OC, 4 OC on there. You can put a Stalker on there. If you're playing like, you know, another army, you're playing Chaos Knights, you just put like one War Dog on there or something. You just deny the primary and you're good. The problem comes into play is when the game starts unfolding in rounds 2 and rounds 3 and rounds 4, that becomes a much more difficult task because obviously your opponent has more units upfield. They probably have a bigger unit on this objective. And then it becomes a really big problem of, okay, now we're just kind of tying on primary because you're keeping your opponent off the middle, probably on both sides. You hold this one, they hold this one, and you're just trading 10s back and forth. And then you're playing a game of who can get better secondaries, and that is never a game that you want to be playing in a tournament setting. So you have to find ways to give your opponents 5s. Otherwise, you're just not going to be winning a lot of games. And so one way that we can do this is with Rapid Ingress. And we're going to just take a hypothetical scenario here. I'm going to move these units back here. And let's just say, for example, okay, let's just use our example of 10 Catachan, okay? Let's just say he does have his 10 Catachan here, okay? Let's say he's a really good player. You know, he's got his, like, Chimera up here or something like that. You know, a Hellhound. He's got some sort of, like, vehicle that's, like, screening this, okay? So one thing that you can do, and the first unit that we're going to highlight is Ophidians. Now, Ophidians are extremely good because they have deep strike, and for any other army, you're looking for kind of like a similar toolkit, something that moves fast, that has deep strike, that has a decent number of attacks, really can pull off this move very well. And so essentially what we're going to do is we would use Rapid Ingress for a primary denial. So we spend a CP on our opponent's turn, and we can safely deep strike in these Ophidians behind the wall. Obviously, we're 9 inches away from their vehicle, which we're going to basically kill on my turn. And it gives me the flexibility to essentially on my turn, he can't interact with this really in any way. And we kill this vehicle, and then these Ophidians are able to move up and then potentially charge because they move 10 inches. So it's a very real thing where they can essentially get to about right here, and you're looking at maybe probably a 5 or 6 inch charge. They clean up the statagem, and you deny the primary, which is super cool. That's one way that you can use Ophidians or for primary denial. Another way is with the Tomb Blades. Okay, so same kind of thing. What we're going to do, they have their catachans right here or some other unit. You can Rapid Ingress, same thing. Tomb Blades in here. Obviously, it's not as an ideal option just because of the fact that they have to come in from a board edge. So they're not as good as far as Rapid Ingress, but it is an option where you can set them up like outside of like here because they move so fast. And then the next turn, you could potentially flat 6 advance them over here behind a wall so they don't get overwatched. They fire at something, and then they fire and fade on the objective, and all of a sudden now you have 6 OC on there, and you potentially catch them off guard that way, okay? That's another way you could primary denial. The final way that you could primary denial, which has been working really well for me, similar type of unit, is using the Locust Heavy Destroyers, the Emetics, and specifically the unit of 2 in the early game. Again, we're going to take this layout, for example, and let's say they have a unit behind here. You can essentially pre-measure your line of sight of where the line is, and we can Rapid Ingress a unit potentially right here. Same kind of idea. We flat 6 advance them so they're able to move 16 inches in one turn. We move them here. They're able to get that line on a unit back here, and for most things in the early game, they're going to be able to pick them up. 24 shots, sustain 1, hitting on 2s because they're on a point with the option to give them +1 to wound. So most things in the game, they're wounding on 2s and then can pop the strat for, +1 to wound with the innate rerolls, 1s to wound on the Emetics. So in my testing, they have done really well as a primary denial piece, especially in the meta that we're going into with some of these hordes, and it gives you an option definitely against like Tyranids and Orcs, which we are really going to struggle into. Those are just going to be very tough matchups for us. So those are a couple primary denial tricks with Rapid Ingress. So then moving on to another play that I like to use all the time is with Heroic Intervention. Okay, so a combo with Rapid Ingress and then Heroic Intervention. Okay, so let's highlight that, which actually came up in the World Eaters game, which you guys are going to see a battle report of tomorrow that I'm very excited to talk about. There's a lot of juicy stuff that happened in that game. So very excited to talk about that. And so let's highlight one thing that actually happened in that game, and this will like synergize what I'm talking about very well. So we had, and this was actually the same layout we were playing yesterday too, which works out perfect. So we had a king right here. We had, like our reanimator and everything, like that little castle right here. Okay. And actually, excuse me, we were playing layout 1. So we had a footprint right here. And he had his like exalted 8-bound right here. Okay. So on his turn, he's going to move out his exalted 8-bound, and we had a stalker. We had like a stalker right here, and I think the reanimator was on the point. And he's essentially going in and trying to charge this point and take out one of the units and take it off me, right? So he moves up his exalted 8-bound. He gets him like right here. And I spend 1 CP and Rapid Ingress in the Ophidians. Okay. Now, intentionally what we're doing here is we're staying outside of 9 of the exalted 8-bound. Okay. But we are staying within 6 of the stalker and the reanimator, just the front Ophidian. So what's going to happen is it puts your opponent in a really tricky spot, because when he charges in, he's going to charge in, he's going to hit here. We're going to spend a CP to Heroic Intervene, and then now all of a sudden we got another 6 OC on the point on his turn, so he's no longer able to deny me the primary. Let's say maybe he has like Storm Hostile that turn, or he's banking on like something else. He could potentially deny him one of his secondaries, which is super, super good. And in this type of play, it also divides his attacks, where now he's in a situation where, yeah, sure, he could go at the Ophidians, but then he's not killing the reanimator or the stalker, and then I still auto-see him, and I still hold the point. So that is like a really good example with Rapid Ingress of using it in conjunction with Heroic Intervene that makes it super, super powerful. And again, why I think Ophidians are extremely good in Star Shatter and some of my most like recent testing. There is a lot of tricks you can pull with this unit, and they punch really hard. Still in this attachment with the +1 to hit and +1 to wound. So moving on, potentially also, again, with Rapid Ingress, you could do an Overwatch threat, okay? So let's just say there's a couple different ways that you could do this. So let's just say we have like a stalker on a point here, okay? And let's say, you know, again, they have like a unit, let's say like a 5-man of JPIs and kind of a similar scenario where, you know, they're looking to charge in and clean this unit up, okay, or take over the point. You could Rapid Ingress in a unit of 3 Aminics or something that has like a lot of like little shots, but it's good like in Overwatch. If you're, you know, if you're an orc army, like you're Rapid Ingressing potentially in a unit of Ludas or something like that, or Flash Gits, and they're playing a melee and you catch them off guard and then they're trying to charge in and they're like, well, crap, if I charge in, you're just going to literally clean up my unit before I even charge. So that is a super powerful way to do this, where you could bring them in 6 inches because they come in off the board edge. They have line of sight and they're like, hey, you want me to take 36 shots, you know, at hitting on, you know, 6s sustained, and then, you know, you hand your opponent like, I don't know, 15 to 20 AP1 shots to clean up some early game units, and then you kind of deny their game plan. Same thing, you could, there's tech where you could do, I'm not saying this could be super good, but it's an option where, let's say you're running like double Hexmark, you have 1 Hexmark in reserve, maybe one's around here, and then same thing, this Hexmark deep strikes in, and now you have like a double Overwatch combo next to the king, which could be super nasty. Different ways you could play that there as far as with Rapid Ingress. So another one really good where you're using Rapid Ingress in conjunction with another stratagem to make something super powerful. So you're using Rapid Ingress with Heroic Intervention, and then Rapid Ingress into an Overwatch during the fight phase or against any sort of like melee pressure army. Okay. Another one that you could use it for, and there's 2 more that we're going to be going over, total of 5, is screening. Okay. So screening is good potentially if you need strong board control. So against armies that are up down, like Grey Knights, the new Guard Detachment, Ret Cadre, you know, obviously there's still a lot of armies out there that are strong and doing those uppy downy abilities. So if you need a unit that you need some board control on, or need it more or less, you're thinking of it hypothetically in the next turn, where you Rapid Ingress in on your turn and it gives you the ability to move it up to create some sort of move block or screen. Perfect example of this is Tomb Blades, again in this detachment, just because in this detachment they have the flexibility to move 24 inches in 1 turn, 12 inches for the move, 6 inch for the flat, 6 advance for a CP, and then Fire and Fade 6. So it does give you the flexibility. I mean, you could Rapid Ingress them here, and let's say you for some reason need like an important move block here that next turn, or you need to cover this area of the board and they have a unit there, right? So it gives you the flexibility to drop this unit in and push up here, same thing. Drop this unit here, push it all the way up here, and create some sort of move block or screen that way, okay? The last thing that I want to highlight with Rapid Ingress is activating abilities, okay? So this is really going to be highlighted with any unit that has like heavy or has something where it remains stationary. So i.e. the Doomsday Arc specifically, or Necrons, but there's a lot of other armies that have similar abilities as well, just in different forms. So Doomsday Arcs are super powerful on a Rapid Ingress depending on the board state. But let's just say we're playing Layout 6, for example. Let me just move this off here. And let's say they have, you know, let's say this is like our firing lines here that we're looking at, right? That was a really sloppy line. Well, it is what it is. So that's our that's our firing lane. And let's say for some reason, like our opponent, like we just had, we just had stuff just like stacked up here, right? Like they're like, yo, I don't want any part of this. I'm just ignoring the king. I don't want to be close to him. I don't want nothing to do with it. I'm just playing like hard over here. Okay. So what it gives you the flexibility to do is if they don't screen this out, there is options where you can rapid ingress in, right? A Doomsday Arc. And now all of a sudden if they don't have enough resources here on this firing line to take this out, that's what you also have to read with the Doomsday Arc, or any sort of vehicle you're trying to do this on, is reading the firing lines. And if they don't have enough output to kill that Doomsday Arc, sometimes this is a very good play, because now you can clean up anything that's on this firing lane that's not going to be charging on my turn. And I'm going to be hitting on 2s no matter if you're on a point or if you're not. And it's going to have dev wounds because it's remaining stationary. So this is another good synergy you can have with Rapid Ingress in terms of activating abilities on your own turn, because it counts as remaining stationary since it was already on the board. So just a quick little recap again. So Rapid Ingress, seriously, need to be using it every game. You need to be building your lists around using Rapid Ingress. Like, you need to have a dedicated unit in there for a Rapid Ingress play. That is my personal opinion, because it is so strong in so many ways. And again, the first biggest one you're using it for is primary denial. That is like #1 priority, especially for Star Shatter. #2 is heroic intervention plays. #3 is Overwatch threats. #4 is for screening. And #5 is activating abilities with like Doomsday Arc or some other vehicle. So that sums up this episode of Mastering 40K and talking about Rapid Ingress, the stratagem itself. Go ahead and leave a comment below if there's something else that you would like me to talk about in the future, because I think this is a cool series, and just taking one topic a week, or maybe 2 a week, and just kind of fleshing them out in a little more detail and just trying to give you guys as much value as I can. I'm going to go ahead and link 2 values up top. You stuck around this long. Seriously appreciate you. And until the next one, peace, y'all.